Now that I have the county boundary layer and the monuments selected, I'll identify just the monuments within the Albuquerque city limits. I've also created a filter for the jurisdiction layer, limiting it to just the city of Albuquerque. And to show you that, I'll double click on the jurisdiction layer to open up layer properties, go to the general tab, and you can see the expression in the feature subset window, jurisdicty equals Albuquerque. The roads layer is very busy, and it would be nice to just show major roads. So I'm going to open up the attribute table by right-clicking on the layer, open attribute table, and see what fields I have available that I might be able to use to filter out just the major roads. There are a lot of fields. I'll scroll right to get a complete picture of what I have to work with. And on the right-hand side, I can see there's this one field called class with values of major and minor in it. And I can use this to select out just the major roads. To do this, I'll click on the Select Features using an Expression button, and a similar query window opens as when filtering a layer. Instead of the fields being listed on the left, here there are functions listed. And if I scroll down, I'll see that there's one category for fields and values. So I'll expand that, find the class field, and double-click on it to add it to the expression window below. Then I'll click All Unique and see what values I have in this field. There's the major and minor values. I'll click the equals operator and double-click on major to create my expression class equals major and click the Select button. I'll close the query window and you can see the selected records shown in blue, and you'll see the features on the map are also selected. Down in the lower left, there's a toggle. By default, it shows all features, but I can switch this to showing just selected features. This is useful when you have a large attribute table and you have a selection and you want to maybe perhaps sort the records of just your selected set. Across the top, I can see that there are 37,963 records in the table, and right now I have 4,500 of them selected. So by selecting out major roads, I've eliminated the vast majority. I'll close my attribute table. To save the selected roads to a new shapefile, I'll right-click on Road Inventory and choose Save Selection As. This is a similar dialog as saving out a shapefile, but this is going to save out just the selected set to a new layer. I'll click the Browse button, call this layer Major Roads, and check the Add Saved File to Map switch and click OK. My major roads is added to my table of contents, and now I can remove my road inventory layer. Now that I have the Albuquerque city limits isolated, I'll buffer the Albuquerque city limit layer by 1 mile. Then I'll be able to identify monuments that are either inside or close to the city limits. Buffer is an operation that creates a new polygon layer that is some buffer distance from the layer. To begin the buffer operation, I'll go to the Vector menu, Geoprocessing Tools, Buffers. The input will be jurisdiction. I'll take the default segments to approximate, and I'll enter a buffer distance in map units. Remember, this layer is in state plane. State plane coordinate system has units in feet. Therefore, to buffer the city boundary by a mile, I'll enter the number of feet that are in a mile, 5,280. Now I'll name the output shapefile. I'll click the Browse button and call this Albuquerque Buffer. I'll click the Add Results to Canvas and click OK. When it's done, I'll close my buffer window, the new layers in the table of contents. I'm going to drag this below jurisdiction, and you can see that this has buffered the city limits by that 1 mile distance. Now that I have the search area for the selected monuments, I'll clip the monument layer to the buffered city limits to create a new shapefile with only the monuments the surveyor should visit. Clip acts like a cookie cutter. It cuts data out that falls within the clip layer boundary. To start the clip operation, I'll go again back to the Vector Data menu, Geoprocessing Tools, Clip. The input vector layer is going to be the monuments. The clip layer will be the Albuquerque buffer. And I'll name the output Albuquerque Monuments. Click Add Result to Canvas and click OK. Close the window. You turn off the original monuments layer, and now you can see I have just monuments that fall within that boundary. Most of them are within the city limits, but a few fall within that extra mile buffer distance. I can remove the original monuments layer. And now my analysis is essentially complete. I've identified the monuments that the surveyor should visit, and I have the layers I need to create the map. I'll open the layer properties for the monuments layer and go to the labels tab. I'll check the label this layer with and choose the field I want to use, which is feature ID. So I'll be labeling every monument point with its feature ID. I'll check the buffer option and select draw text buffer using the defaults. This will create a white halo around the labels, which will make them easier to read against a busy background. Next, I'll click the placement option, and I'll give it a distance of 2. This will offset the label from the point a bit, giving me more room to make a bigger monument symbol and still have the label not overlap that symbol. There are many options for label placement. I'll click OK to accept these changes, and now you can see that all the monuments are labeled with their feature ID. In the final task, I'll prepare the final map for the surveyors.